Welcome to JasonWhiskyWise. My name is Jason. Welcome to this whiskey review, where today, here on the channel, we're going to be featuring a whiskey from the Lakes Distillery and continuing our series into the Lakes Whiskies, where today we're going to be continuing on with their blends. And this one's a rather interesting and rather special one, because when I saw it, I was very intrigued by it. So, this one over here is called the Lakes Orange Wine Cask Finish. So, this again is something that when I saw it, I was rather shocked. An orange wine cask? I've never heard of that. And so, if you haven't heard of the Lakes Whiskies or anything like that, I'll leave a link to the top corner for a playlist where you can see some of the single malts and even some of the blends, because right now I'm covering the blends. And then probably down the line, we'll see some other whiskies from the Lakes, which I'll try to cover here on the channel. So this one is part of their blend series called The One. And The One series is where they focus in on blending the Lakes single malt with Scottish grain and Scottish malt whiskies. And these whiskies can be from different regions. For this one specifically, the orange wine cask finish, there's whiskies from Speyside and Islay, to what I remember reading online. So those married together or blended together with the Lakes single malt makes this whiskey. So it's quite exciting. Now, this one, again, I think I got this sample from 2020. Yeah, 2020. And when I saw it, the first thing I thought, what is an orange wine cask finish? So I wonder what effect that would have on the whiskey. So without further ado, let's dive straight into our review style structure. In terms of the age statement on this whiskey, it doesn't have an age statement. In terms of ABV, it's bottled at 46.6, which seems to be a rather consistent thing for the One series. In terms of cask, this is where it gets interesting. This is a first fill American oak barrel seasoned with Vino de Naranja, which is an aromatic wine, which is orange wine. So you know, a little bit of my Spanish over there probably worked a little bit. Orange wine. So rather interesting to see that used in a whiskey. And I believe this might be the first time. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section if this is the first time an orange wine cask is used in whiskey, because I don't think I remember seeing anything on whiskey base about an orange wine cask finish, minus the Lakes. So in terms of price point for a full-size bottle, in front of Mr. Bananas, it comes in about £48, and it's still available in most retailers and even online. I think the Lakes even sell this on their website. And in terms of exclusivity, this is the first one where I believe it is exclusive, and it's limited to 2,994 bottles for this release. This is from 2020's release, so again, I'm not sure if this year there's going to be a new batch, a new sort of slight variation to this range. Again, that'll be down to the Lakes team and their whiskey creator, Babel Gandhi. But without further ado, let's dive straight into the nose of this whiskey. As I mentioned probably in the beginning of the video, this is whiskies from Speyside and Islay mixed with Lake single malt. And this is natural colour and non-chill filtered, and it does have an ever so slightly pale orange hue, but it's not as, notable when you look at this whiskey. So let's dive straight into the nose of this whiskey. Slanger series. There is a lot of citrus. Me and Mr. Bananas, we found a lot of citrus on this nose. And it's all over the place. You've got orange marmalade, you've got citrus peel. For me, it reminds me, when I say citrus peel, this is quite a rich and very strong citrus peel. It's like a Seville sun-soaked orange, which you're cutting off the peel, and as you're doing that, the citrus oils are just bursting all around you, and it's in the air. That sort of aromatic, a very rich, again, very strong, but not as strong as, say, a blood orange. There's even it reminds me of a sweet called Starburst, and it reminds me of that orange sweet where you've got that little bit of a sweeter, almost artificially orange character. It's just very interesting that you've got, the fruity, and then you get this artificial note. And behind that, you're getting, again, sweet nectarines, quince, lemon sherbet. It's now even moving to lemons, and this is like a lemonade more than anything. But whilst that orange is still there, you are getting even a hint of this one of sandalwood. And there is a little soft, ever so slightly soft smoke to that sandalwood. It's like as if you've been doing DIY work and by accident you've burnt a little bit of the wood that you're working with. That sort of little smoky aroma. But it's ever so soft because the citrus on this one is very, very dominant. Very interesting, very nice nose. Especially if you love citrus, this is going to be a nose for you, because this is just, I think this would actually go really, really well in an old fashioned. I got to try this out, but wow, it's got a lot of citrus on the nose. Let's get to the palate next. Sludge it. Whiskey, for me, the texture on this one has a nice medium, but a slight silkiness, and it's quite interesting because the way I describe this is almost like as if you've taken a spoon of rich honey that's infused together with a little bit of a citrusy character. That sort of citrus, and maybe even a hint of some spice in there as well. And these are spices like red pepper, cloves, and even star anise. Very interesting selection of spices combined with this honey note. Now the oranges are coming back on the palate, and this is like a blood orange, very rich, and it's followed up with a slight toasted, like a vanilla pod, which you've toasted ever so slightly, or even, you know, if you char it a little bit, just to bring out the aromatics from the vanilla. And on the end, there's a nice juicy sweetness. And for me, I'm finding that it's like sultanas. It's like a yellow sort of fruit for me, this one. It's not as rich as raisins, nor is it anything sort of super dark or super light. It's got that sort of sultana-y character to it. And that honey note returns back on the end of the palate. It just works. I don't know, it's something that's very well rounded on the palate for this whiskey. So let's get into the finish next and see what we have on the finish for this whiskey. So overall, our opinions on the finish for this whiskey, this has a nice medium finish. In terms of flavor profiles though, there is a little bit of that citrus character. Sultanas are back from the palate now into the finish of this whiskey, and there is that nice honeyed sweetness. But what I've noticed on this one, there is a slight bitter aspect. And for me, it's almost like you've taken a bite out of, I don't know, it's like black licorice. It's interesting how this is developed behind the citrus right on the end, and it's right at the back of the center of the palate where it develops this like bitter character. Something that I really didn't anticipate from the nose and even from the palate, but on the finish, it's there after you hold it there for a while. Medium finish, but that's definitely evident on the back of the palate, which I think pulls this one down quite a bit. It's quite a shame because this one was, you know, doing quite a good job. I just don't know where that bitter aspect has come from on this whiskey. I want to go back for a second sip on the finish. But yeah, let's see what we find. From the second sip over there, honey sultanas, again, those wood spices. But what I'm finding there is that, again, through the center of the palate, that dry bitter character, which I really can't place. Again, I thought it was like black licorice, but now it's changing almost. It's got almost like a herbal character. Really unusual. I don't know what it is, but we'll sort of try to explore this whiskey a little bit more further. In terms of score for this whiskey, I'm going to give it an 84 out of 100. For me, it's a nice whiskey. It's really nice on the nose, on the palate, but I don't know what it is about that finish with that slight bitter aspect. It went from citrus to spicy to a bit of sweetness, then back to citrus. I don't know what happened at the end, but that bitter character kind of leaves a bad note on the back of the palate. But in terms of this whiskey, if you're into making cocktails and into sort of, you know, mixology, I think this would be a fantastic whiskey to make old fashions, Manhattans, you name it. If you know your mixology, you'll know exactly how to blend this one perfectly to make something. So for me, I'm going to try giving this one a go a little bit and try to make a sort of a old fashioned with this one a little bit later, as it is today World Whiskey Day when I'm reviewing this one. So yeah, it's quite an interesting whiskey. For me, if that didn't have that bitter aspect, it would have scored a bit more higher than what it's got at the minute of 84 points. So in terms of, is it value for money, water and time? Value for money, again, it's around about that good ballpark. So it's okay in terms of my opinion for value for money. In terms of water, it's one that I can say, again, 50-50. It's completely up to you. If you want to completely, again, add a lot of water, if you want to put it in a highball, this would be a very good long drink, actually, come to think of it. It would be a very good long drink in the summer. So maybe I need to get a bottle of this and use it in the summer and just see how it goes out. But definitely something, again, you can mix, and I think it'll be very good for mixing. And in terms of value for, also in terms of time aspect, yes, give it some time, let it open up. It's got a lot of citrus character. If you drink it from the go, you're mainly just going to notice some citrus characters. If you give it time, it will open up and you're going to start seeing these different aspects of some richer citrus. Then you get into a sour citrus, and it just sort of plays around, and it's lovely how that plays around on the actual nose of this whiskey. So I'll wrap this video up at that because we could ramble on for another few more minutes. But yeah, 84 out of 100 is going to be our score for the Lakes, the one orange wine glass finish. Very interesting, and it's something you don't see every day on the shelves. So that's going to be our score, 84 out of 100 from me and Mr. Bananas. If you have enjoyed the video, again, feel free to drop it a thumbs up as it helps the channel. Feel free to hit the like, subscribe button if you're new to the channel, so you can stay up to date with some more content. And this has been me, Mr. Bananas. We'll catch you all for the next video. Slanger.